RTE.
Mostly dry tonight with lowest temperatures of 4 to 8 degrees, wet and very windy tomorrow. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
I am Toto Schillaci and you are releasing in 2 of the ball and of News Talk.
Football show coming up shortly. We will talk to Keith Andrews about the Manchester derby and also Chelsea Everton, which we've live here on Off the Ball on Sunday. And we will also talk with Tim Vickery a little bit later in the hour, because it is the first leg of the Copa Libertadores final this Saturday. It is Boca Juniors against River Plate. The first time the two Argentinian sides have met in the final of South America's most prestigious club trophy. So we'll chat to Tim Vickery about that. Richie, you were saying it's
live and free.
Live and free to air.
Yeah, free to air. If you have the Free Sports channel, if you're on Sky.
Who doesn't, Richie?
Do you know what? If you have Sky, it's actually Sky 429, I think I was looking up earlier on. But basically, if you look on their Twitter, Free Sports UK, you'll see it there. Essentially, it is as it says in the tin, free. So you'll be able to see that first leg of the Libertadores final, Boca versus River, Saturday at the rather appealing time as well of 8 p.m. Irish time. You see,
Saturday night football is the new thing.
It's not as if you have to stay up until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch this.
There was a certain attractiveness to that, though. When the Copa America was on, you're a bit younger and you'd be ultimate football hipster at 15 and stay up till 3 in the morning.
Watching Eurosport.
Watching Brazil against Chile, and you were delighted with yourself.
A shy Chile and not much better Brazil, probably. Yeah.
Playing some of the most disgusting, terrible football, ruining everything you'd heard for the previous 20 years about the beautiful game.
But just the thought of this, just a packed Bombonera on Saturday night. Just...
Gaz Andrada has been in touch. Judging by his attire, is Richie devastated that Palmeiras didn't reach the final?
No, just have the top, Gaz. Don't be getting too carried away with it.
They were beaten in the semi-finals by Boca.
Yeah, they were.
It's a nice top.
I do like Palmeiras. Some quality gear.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. It's nice, yeah.
Yes. Football-wise tonight, though, second half's just underway in the 8 p.m. kickoffs in the Europa League. Arsenal are scoreless with Sporting at the moment. As things stand, Arsenal will go through to the last 32 with 2 games to spare, with Karabag 1-0 up away to Vorskla. But the real story of the game perhaps being Danny Welbeck stretched off what appeared a very serious looking ankle injury. A lot of pictures doing the rounds on social media. That one wouldn't encourage you to look at many of them because they aren't that appealing, but a serious
broken
injury.
Ankle?
Yeah, it would appear so. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't broken. Celtic, meanwhile, they need a win at home to RB Leipzig. Going their way so far, Kieran Tierney's strike 11 minutes into the game at Parkhead sees Brendan Rodgers' side lead by a 1-0. Elsewhere in Group B, leader Salzburg 4-0 up away to Rosenborg. Chelsea earlier sealed their place in the knockout phase with 2 games to spare. Olivier Giroud heading the only goal of the game, with Maurizio Sarri's side winning 1-0 away to Bate Borisov. A point at home to PAOK Thessaloniki. In 3 weeks, we'll see them confirmed as Group L winners. Rangers have dropped a third in a very tight Group G after losing their first game in this season's competition. Stephen Gerrard's side lost 4-3 away to Spartak Moscow. Plenty of transfer news around as well here at home. Or of sorts, because Shamrock Rovers have signed Gary Shaw. He left Shamrock Rovers, or St Patrick's Athletic, signed Gary Shaw. He left Rovers after 3 seasons in Tala. Stephen Beattie, after leaving Cork, is off to Chattanooga, while Stephanie Roach has signed for Florent.
Stephen Beattie's off to where?
Chattanooga in the USL League One.
Nice.
While Stephanie Roach has signed for the women's Serie A side Florentia, who are currently 5th in the women's Serie A and based, as you might have imagined by the name, out of Florence. Only Jordan Larmour, Jacob Stockdale and Bundy Aki are retained from last week's win over Italy for Saturday's test with Argentina at the Aviva. Puma's head coach Mario Ledesma opting for something of a surprise himself. With Guido Letti starting on the open side. Guido Petty, starting on the open side instead of his usual position in the second row. Well, Peter Leahy, as you mentioned there with your interview with Cora Staunton, remaining in charge of the Mayo Ladies footballers until the autumn of 2021. The Westmeath man this week presented a 3-year plan to the county board, off the back of which he was ratified for the duration. Leahy's first year in charge, as we know, a pretty controversial one, with 12 senior members leaving the panel, citing player welfare issues.
Yeah, that Cora Staunton interview is up on offtheball.com right now. It is time for the football show.
The Football Show on Off the Ball. In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So we have two huge live games on Off the Ball this Sunday. We're on air all the way through till 7 o'clock because it's a 4:30 start for the Manchester derby. City against United. It's going to be live with Dave McIntyre and Stephen Reid. Before that, I'll be at Stamford Bridge alongside Stephen Kelly at 2:15 kickoff for Chelsea against Everton to look ahead to the games and maybe bring us some of the highlights of the Keith Andrews show. It is Keith Andrews.
Hello,
see what I did there. How are you?
Very good, very good. They're two good games, aren't they?
They are two good games.
Yeah.
They're not the Sheffield derby, the Steel City derby.
It's tomorrow. That is tomorrow. That'll be a good one, that.
You got the call up,
really
did you?
Good one. That'll be a good. I'm on commentary actually, which is unusual because Andy Hinchcliffe normally does commentary on a Friday night. I'm normally studio, but looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
So Sheffield United are flying at the moment.
Chris
Wilder is their manager.
Yeah, born and bred Sheffield United fan.
Okay.
Stood on the terraces, play in a manner where you would expect the fan to be in charge, not belittling them. They play really exciting front foot football, aggressive, in your face, but play good stuff. He's evolved the way they've played. They've made some good signings. John Egan being a prime example. That in the summer he's made a big difference. The heart of defence. Play a 3-5-2 system where the three at the back, the ones on the side, actually overlap the wing backs at times.
Right.
That adventurous, that forward thinking.
Are they the Wolves of this season?
No, I wouldn't.
That level of quality?
No, not that level of quality, but in terms of where they are financially, they're batting above where they should be. They don't pay big money. They have made good signings in the summer. Norwood, who plays for Northern Ireland, and Egan been two really good signings.
They're traditionally, obviously, a big club.
Yeah, both of them are.
They've been in the Premier League. But for Sheffield United, if this run continues, if they were to earn promotion, is there the money behind Sheffield United that they could go and stay in the Premier League?
There's a bit of a battle going on at the moment between joint owners. Percentage-wise, one of them wants to buy out the more traditional owner. I think his name is McCabe. So he's looking to buy him out, wants to invest more. McCabe is more of a traditional, wants to do things slowly. So that has to get sorted out. But in terms of the fan base and the side, both of the clubs you would have to suggest, but Sheffield United obviously more likely. Sheffield Wednesday had their opportunity in the last couple of years. They have really speculated and it's kind of come down crashing. The manager struggling, 4 losses in a row. I think they've conceded 12 in the last 4 defensively, all over the place against a team that in Sheffield United, playing at Sheffield United tomorrow, no home team has scored more goals, so it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye out.
Keep tuned in.
We certainly will. So the Manchester derby is the biggest derby of the weekend. Where do you lie with United over the past month or so? Is this a squad that's sort of raging against the dying of the light and are just finding a bit of character for 10-15 minute spurts? Or do you actually look at them and think, yeah, there is a lot of character in this side now, they're learning, they're growing as a group, and they can put together a decent run of form, that there's signs that it's all coming together?
Well, if I got back a month ago, I thought we were coming to the end of Jose's reign. I really did. So there has been huge promise in that last month. Some of the performances, the late comebacks, the little glimpses of 10, 15, 20 minute spells that you've alluded to. I think we have seen that, and we have seen shows.
Is that enough though? Because so say look at the past week or even the past couple of weeks, the Bournemouth performance. Bournemouth killed them
in the first
for
half.
The first half an hour in particular. Could have easily been 3 or 4-0 up. Maybe it's still the weight of the Manchester United name that's playing on the strikers' minds when they're in a game like that. But huge missed opportunities.
I think the last month, when you look at the last month, again, it's been the glimpses. I just think overall it hasn't been enough. And I think when you look at the last month, some of those performances that have been good, the comeback against Juventus last night, magnificent comeback, and bringing on Fellaini, it's plan B again. I still think they should be further down the line. But having said that, if you're judging it on the last month, there's been really encouraging signs. Now, has that been Jose giving them a little bit more freedom, a little bit more love? Or has it been players going, do you know what, this is getting a little bit embarrassing. You know, we're constantly getting criticised. Our performance, it's taking its toll. So is it player driven? Is it Jose? I'm not sure. Really not sure what way it's come from. Is Michael Carrick had more of a say, finding his feet as a number 2? Very, very hard to put your finger on it. But it has certainly been better in the last month, hasn't it?
Yeah, because that question's always asked when teams suddenly produce performances, not even for a full game. You always think back to the night in Paris and Thierry Henry's handball. The question was always asked, was this Trapattoni finally getting his tactics spot on, or was it a player-led revolt almost that actually we have nothing left to lose at this stage, we're going to do things our way? Do you find that out over time now with United as to whether Mourinho's having an impact? If it doesn't last, does that suggest actually it's just a player-led thing?
Yeah, exactly. It won't last if it's just player-led, because that can't continue. They're normally isolated performances, aren't they, where you get that type of level, and it goes against the grain of what we've become accustomed to seeing, and what we've become accustomed to seeing from Jose. We were chatting about this yesterday actually with a mate of mine. I don't know what a Jose Mourinho Man United side is. When you look at Sarri already a few months into his Chelsea tenure, you know what a Sarri team looks like. You know what Manchester City look like. I don't know what Manchester United are. And even in terms of the front three, are they his Chelsea team where it's Robben and Duff, wide, high? Do they rely on that width? Are they narrow forwards? Do they play with two strikers and a two in midfield and one ahead? I don't know, and I don't think he knows. And I think we're all in agreement he doesn't know his best 11, certainly.
You talk about, and we all, I think, loved that Chelsea team of the time of Drogba and Robben and Duff, and maybe it was because Duff was such an integral part of it, but they were also so devastating on the counter-attack. So brilliant at the back, defensively solid, but just utterly devastating when Robben and Duff had the peak of their powers. Why has he not returned to that when you look at what is there at United? Is it that Romelu Lukaku is nowhere near the quality of Didier Drogba, so therefore you can't get Rashford and Martial into the way Drogba could get?
But if you look at that Chelsea team,
Robben,
I think attacking wise he has relatively similar players with traits that were Duff, pace, power out wide, and the likes of Robben compared to, say, Martial, Lukaku to Drogba, not a million miles off. Defensively, totally different. Now, we go back to the summer and he kept on chipping away about the players not coming in, the board not backing him. What does that do to the players' confidence? At the start of the season, certainly, they look like they were on eggshells. They really do. And in terms of the whole team, that consistency, it hasn't been there. That Chelsea team was so consistent in its selection and the way they played, whereas this Man United team is so vastly different.
From all your work on Virgin Media Sport over the past couple of months, watching Champions League, Europa League, Nations League, have you seen a centre-back out there that United should be chasing down in January if this 100 million comes available?
I tell you what, they dodged a couple of bullets in my opinion in the summer.
Harry Maguire?
Boateng, without a shadow of a doubt. I think Harry Maguire would have been just reactionary to the way the World Cup went. One of the best English players, let's get him in. Where, like, realistically, if you're doing your due diligence, you should be scouting players, have them earmarked before World Cups, get them for less of a premium, get them in. But I think they need a dominant force. We only have to look across the way in Liverpool what Van Dijk has done to that defensive Liverpool. But I think there's plenty he could choose.
Milan Skriniar
from Inter Milan. Do you like him?
Again, maybe he's not that character you're looking for. He's a proper ball player. He's still very young. You're thinking they still need that big totemic leadership figure.
Of all the ones that were mentioned in summer, would have been my preference, and I think he's gone flat at Spurs last season. Didn't play much. He would have been my preference to go into that heart of the defence. I think Boateng, absolutely not. No way. I wouldn't have gone near him with a barge pole. I think he's carrying about 1.5 stone. The wages and what it would have cost would have been astronomical. But I like Skriniar. I'm with you, but maybe alongside another one. But then you're talking to, which I'm sure Jose would be happy with.
Yeah. Where do you stand on where Marcus Rashford is right now in his career? Because he's been talked up and has delivered at times, and he's still very young. He's still only just gone 21 in the last week or so. But he scored, 5 Premier League goals in the last 12 months? For a guy who's touted as the next Michael Owen, as the most obvious comparison, he hasn't quite got there yet. Is he all that? Is he just not been used right?
Oh, yeah, I think he is all that, Nathan. I really do. And I think you've only got to look to the way he was utilised with England in that Spanish game in a wider area, no problem. Eventually he will be a top centre forward as long as he gets the development.
Is now not the time you'd want him as a centre forward though, when he's young and he's got all of his pace?
I don't think he's solely reliant on pace. When you look at Michael Owen, I know he spoke about it even to Joe, hasn't he, in the last couple of months about the book and the way he had to change his game. I think Rashford is quite intelligent already in the way he can operate, the positions he picks up. I don't think he's solely reliant on pace. I haven't got a big issue where he plays along that front three. I really don't, because I think he can be devastating in any three of those positions. And I think for the time being, it probably suits him a little bit more playing from the wing. And he also gives you the work rate going the other way and a counter-attacking style, which we've seen in Spain for England. Has he hit at the heights where he might have under a different manager with a little bit more freedom? No, I think that's probably fair to say, but I still think it's very, very early days. Jose always goes back to look at the minutes he's played. He's still developing. Look, that is true. He has got a lot of minutes for the age he is, but I think most of us would think, well, why is he not doing it that little bit more? And I think there's a few factors involved in that, positionally, the managerial, the style, and his age, obviously.
The last Manchester derby was, well, quite like a lot of Manchester United games over the past month, where they found themselves 2-0 down at half-time, turned it around completely in the second half, delayed City winning the title, and there was a bit of character that day. Like, there is a concern, not just with this game, but with the entire season, that for all Liverpool have done to improve, and Chelsea coming together quickly than anyone expected under Sarri, that maybe Manchester City are just that good.
They are, don't
still going to win. Do you think they're going to win this league by double figures?
Didn't at the start of the season. De Bruyne had been out, and not particularly missing him when he was out, because Bernardo Silva was playing really well in a central position. I just think they're so slick, and you're right, we've spoken about Liverpool's improvement. Chelsea have probably surprised nearly everybody with how well they've settled and done, but Manchester City are just so slick in the way they go about things. And
are there any major changes from last season?
In terms of the way they're playing, no. I just think when you look around the team, you're seeing players that are constantly improving. Sterling being a prime example. I think Sané will go again on a patch during this season, go on to another level. Bernardo Silva is better than he was last year. He looks fitter, sharper, stronger, and he looks more settled in that side. David Silva is just David Silva, and I think Aguero's probably looked the sharpest he's looked in a few years. Maybe get Jesus scoring during the week will do his conference the world of good. He got a hat-trick, so they've just stepped it up. Liverpool have, to a degree, in the last few weeks, maybe stepped off it a little bit.
Well, any other season, Liverpool's points total would have them top of the league right now.
But that's what Manchester City are. I think we're very fortunate to be witnessing this. Everyone will point, obviously, to spending, but the coaching that those players are getting. You were talking about Marcus Rashford. Well, look at the difference in Raheem Sterling. The same can be said about Martial. The promise is there. Like, go back 2 years ago, who would you rather have, Martial or Raheem Sterling?
Oh.
You know, that's where it is, and that's the difference. And it's not just managers and coaches. It's obviously comes down to the individual. How much are they buying into improving themselves on a daily basis? The prime example of that over the last 10 to 15 years has been Ronaldo. Look what he's still producing last night against Manchester United, that goal. Devotion to his trade, and whether that's happening with certain players, we obviously don't know.
So that is the Manchester derby. It's a 4:30 start. Dave McIntyre will be alongside Stephen Reid for that. First up, though, we'll have Chelsea against Everton, which I'm looking forward to. I've seen quite a bit of Everton over the past 5-6 weeks, and first off, I saw them being beaten at Arsenal, and it just felt like it was the same old Everton, where there was no great consistency. The front four had nice touches here and there without ever really influencing the game. But the last 3 weeks, they've had Andre Gomez finally fit on loan from Barcelona. He's just run the show in the middle of midfield, because they have the energy and the enthusiasm of Idrissa Gana Gueye, who'll always get himself about. But now, rather than him having to find one of the front four, he just gives it to Gomez, who just strolls around the middle of the park, just calm in possession, able to pick out the right pass. And it feels as though it has changed maybe what Everton can achieve this season. Now, this, though, is a pretty tough test going.
Yeah, it will be a tough test, because Sarri's been producing really high standard football in a relatively short space of time. But I agree about Everton. I think Gomez has made a difference. You were the one that highlighted to me. I didn't see that game you were at a few weeks ago, and I watched the next one on the box, and I thought he was a class apart in the centre of the park, and a step up class wise of what they have had in there. The
Which was Schneiderlin.
Yeah. So and do you know what else as well? The robust side of the game didn't seem a problem for him. He was having that as well, which you always worry about when they come from a different league on the continent. So I think the chemistry between those two, Idrissa Gana Gueye and Gomez, looks good, looks nice. I'm still not sure about exactly what way that front four is working with Richarlison as the striker. I know he got his goal, really good goal last weekend. Still worries me a little bit, and the consistency of Theo Walcott as well.
It would frustrate the life out of him.
Yeah, I agree, and it shouldn't be that case the age he's at.
And of that front four, actually, he's probably been the poorest so far this season.
Yeah, I agree.
Been very few real positive moments from where Sigurdsson, again, struggles with a little bit of inconsistency, but generally seems to be up in his game a little bit. Seamus Coleman is obviously back, fully fit, is back in the Ireland squad as well. Seems to have been a change in Coleman's outlook and character over the past month or so. Like, you know him, you've been on the receiving end of it in the last month, but he's done a lot of post-match interviews. He's come out as the Everton captain. We saw the celebration last week, which would have sort of feels like it was out of character, having a real go at his own supporters who've been at his back, because whenever we talk about Coleman, automatically we say brilliant right back, one of the best in the league, and you'll always get texts in straight away from Everton fans going, you're clearly not watching him week in, week out, because he's not at the level he was before he got the injury. I'm just wondering now that, like, at 30, he's at that stage of his career that maybe he's just decided, screw it.
Yeah, maybe
I'm
going to have my say, which crack on and do. I was really surprised though with the celebration. I have to say, when I first seen it back, I was like, wow, just so unlike Seamus, because he has been the blue-eyed boy, and quite rightly so as well, the way he goes about his business and the level he has produced year on year at Everton. He's been one of, or if not the most consistent performer at Goodison Park. But maybe since the injury, after the whole euphoria of that getting back, and then maybe it's tailed off, maybe he hasn't hit the heights. But and then what you will also find as well, with players that have been there a long time, there's a little bit of grace period with new players coming in, and maybe they're thinking, well, we have to give Bernard time, we have to give Walcott, we have to give Richarlison time if they're not having that off game. But the solid citizen of Seamus Coleman, and maybe the level that he hit before the injury, maybe he hasn't got back to that level.
Yeah,
I don't think his performances have been poor in any way, shape or form.
We probably shouldn't underestimate as well, and we look forward to the day we'll get to properly sit down with him for an hour and talk about the injury and the effect that had on him with that year out, because I've always felt it was this career-altering injury, because that was the summer where he could have gone. That was the summer where he might have got his one big move that's probably passed him by at this stage. Everton is where he's going to be, more than likely, you'd imagine, for the rest of his career. And what's that's done to him mentally, and having had a lot of time off to think about his role with Ireland, his role with Everton, and maybe just being a leader and what that takes, and no longer just sitting and being quiet post-match. That actually, like the interview that I did with him where he was on about the Ireland and the punditry and the criticism and that, it was interesting how he always was having a pop at his own teammates as well, about managers at Everton are the ones who always give up their job. When I look in that dressing room, I see a lot of guys who haven't pulled their weight over the last while.
Maybe it's built up over that period of time, and you do get time for reflection when you have a long time out with injury. And it's he for so long he's been that quiet figure, and even when he gets the armband, he gets it off John O'Shea at international level, Phil Jagielka at club level. He is the captain of club and country now, and quiet along the way. Maybe now he's feeling things aren't quite sitting so well with me, and I am going to say it. And look, crack on and say it. And I was really surprised to see him to the Gladys Street though, because he's had such an affinity and such a really good
part of that may well be as well. Listen, I'm sure he's had offers to go.
What I would
and
say,
he's always made it clear he loves Everton, and I've stuck with this club through all the nonsense that's gone on, and now you're having a pop at me.
But on the flip side of that, Everton came out quite quickly after that injury.
Give him a new contract.
Yeah, so they actually, I thought they'd done a really good thing at the time when he probably needed and was feeling really, really low.
Well, I'm hoping to interview Seamus after the game on Sunday, so if there's anything you'd like to get off your chest right now, just so I can throw it to him.
I have enough of a platform.
Wait, I'll tell you what Keith Andrews just said about you, Seamus. It was all positive. All right, good stuff as always, Keith.
Cheers, pal.
Keith Andrews Show, live on all our social channels every Thursday lunchtime. Yeah, so that was Keith Andrews, who was in a bit earlier, presenting that lunchtime show, which is up on offtheball.com right now. This week, he had an interview with the former Ireland international, Stephen Reid. So that is well worth checking out. They talk about his coaching career. He has left Crystal Palace, how he has an interest in maybe getting involved with the Republic of Ireland under-21s. And Stephen is going to be part of our commentary team this coming Sunday for the Manchester Derby. He'll be alongside Dave McIntyre for the 4:30 kickoff. As we said, we also have Chelsea against Everton. Stephen Kelly will be with me for that. Gets underway at 2:15. Come on, lads, how many United players will get in the City team? Says Graham Inoffoli.
15.
Realistically, would even David De Gea get in the City team right now?
Does it matter? It's all about how the players you have at your disposal and how you manage them.
It's going to be a long show to fill, Richie, if everything, the answer is, does it matter?
The answer is no to most things.
What really matters?
Nothing.
No mention as usual of City's back four. Laporte is as solid as Van Dijk.
That's absolute fact. Aymeric Laporte is one of the best signings of the past 12 months. I don't think there's any dispute about that.
No, he's definitely the first choice right now. Is he at the level of Big Virgil, though?
See, the thing about Laporte is, it's because he has no international recognition, because he's kind of betwixt and between things in terms of where he fits in. That I don't think. Am I
French? Am I Spanish?
I don't think he's judged in the same way that other defenders are, which is a bit unfortunate, but he's definitely one of the best in the Premier League. So
Europa League is ongoing. Celtic midway through the second half against Red Bull Leipzig. They needed to win this.
Rasenball Sport Leipzig, for the purposes of sponsorship deals.
Oh, really?
That's what they're called in Europe at the moment. Anyway. But it is Celtic 1, Red Bull Leipzig 0.
What does Rasenball mean?
Something ball.
Good lad, Richie.
First year German. Kieran Tierney striking 11 minutes separates the sides at Parkhead at the moment. It would be a very much needed win for Celtic, would drag them level on points with second placed Rosenborg. They are losing at the moment 5-2 at home to Salzburg. So Group B is very much alive, even if top spot isn't at the moment. Elsewhere, Arsenal 0, Sporting 0 remains the score with about 25 minutes to go at the Emirates in Group E. As things stand, Arsenal would be heading through as Karabakh were 1-0 up away to Vorskla. Appears to be some delay to that one, bringing an update on that. But the big news coming out of the Emirates tonight would be that Danny Welbeck has suffered what looked like a very, very serious ankle injury and was carted off, needing oxygen as well on his way off the pitch. So a very serious injury for Danny Welbeck in that game this evening. The game involving Vorskla and Karabakh has been interrupted. The referee calling a stop to that one. Fireworks were to blame. So it appears that one, the referee has stopped the Volska Karabakh game as a result of fireworks
Richie,
in Ukraine. Yes.
Nobody cares. Nobody.
Right, fair enough. Rangers losing a classic away to Spartak Moscow 4-3.
Just a 90 seconds on Wrocław Karabakh.
Dude, it's in Arsenal's group. It depends on whether it has an impact on whether Arsenal go through or not.
Not that much of an impact.
Bloody does. Rangers losing 4-3 away to Spartak Moscow. Elsewhere in the group, Villarreal top, albeit a very, very tight group. A scoreless draw for the La Liga side away to Rapid Vienna tonight. And Chelsea 1-0 winners away to Bate Borisov. A header from Olivier Giroud, giving them all 3 points and passage through to the last 32. They will be confirmed as group winners in Group L if they pick up a point at home to Pau Thessaloniki. That is in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, first goal of the season for Olivier Giroud tonight. And speaking on Virgin Media Sport this evening, Kevin Kilbane has been saying that it should be a big weight off Giroud's shoulders.
Yeah, he's come back. He hasn't been as sharp after the World Cup. He played such a huge part for France in winning the World Cup over the summer. And he hasn't looked great. He hasn't. His link-up play in general is always very good. But he's not, even the games I've seen him, he's not necessarily been getting the chances. And tonight proved that again, as Mick suggested there. He wasn't necessarily getting any sort of real quality balls played into him. So, yes, that is what he needed. He's desperate to get a goal. And the movement was classic Giroud, exactly what we've seen of him over the years.
First goal in 794 minutes for Olivier Giroud. I hate that stat because it makes you do the maths. How many games is that, Richie?
It's just somebody trying to show off in terms of stats.
How many games is that?
Somebody sat there and worked out.
It's not quite 9 games.
Because the clock starts from the time of his last goal.
Exactly.
So he might score in like the 9th minute of a game. And it's like 81. Does that include stoppage time?
You see, these are the questions. Like, I love my stats, but that stat is nonsensical. Like, maybe saying he hasn't scored in his last 17 appearances, even that is a little bit, well, was one of them coming off for 28 seconds at the end of a match when they were 4-0 up?
So you're saying you're not happy with either way of measuring the distance between goals?
It is his first goal of the season, though, which is the only thing.
Do you know what? He's a handy man to have around. He's one of those, he's a squad player who doesn't seem to get the camel about it. So if he's going to be on the bench for a couple of games running, it's not as if he's going to be moody about it when he comes off. He's going to come on.
How could you be moody when you're that good looking?
That's true. That probably plays a factor in things.
Life is just so much better.
He's living in London. He's on
World Cup winner
a week. He's a handsome divil.
Does anybody have it better than Olivier Giroud?
Who gives a monkeys whether he scores in 738 minutes? Doesn't matter. You're handsome. You're fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're golden. But it's an extra spur to Alvaro Morata as well, just to keep him honest, I suppose.
Yeah, so Chelsea Everton live this Sunday. Remember, Virgin Media Sport is the new home of European football in Ireland, with more than 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games live this season. Virgin Media Sport is exclusive to all Virgin Media TV customers, who can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream all the action whenever and wherever they like. You want to come back in, but if it's another bloody update, Wrocław and Karabakh.
Somebody says, sorry, but some people are interested in the Vorskla game. I'm waiting on them to score for 100 quid.
We'll take a quick break.
Football on Off the Ball, in association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Down to business.
We're back on the road with our brand new roadshow, Your Town, Your Main Street. It's coming to Lawler's Hotel in Naas on the 17th of November. The new roadshow features a panel of experts who'll be giving Naas a health check, focusing on what works in the town from a retail, town planning and civic space point of view. There'll also be live music and a few surprises. That's the all-new Your Town, Your Main Street from Lawler's Hotel in Naas on Saturday the 17th of November.
Down to Business.
Brought to you by FBD Insurance.
On News Talk.
We began our search for Ireland's greatest businesswomen some months ago, and now we've got our shortlist. The Image Businesswoman of the Year award stretches across 8 categories, plus the overall Image Businesswoman of the Year. Join 800 of Ireland's key influencers on Monday, November the 19th as we announce the winners. The gala evening will include plenty of treats and surprises for all, as well as the great reveal. The Image Businesswoman of the Year awards, sponsored by Liffey Valley, BMW, Samsung, Boots, Kuhn & Nagel, Irish Life Health, Virgin Media Business and Cairn Homes. Details on image.ie.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
At Expert Electrical, get €100 off and a free 5-year warranty on Whirlpool Supreme Care washing machines. With its quiet motor and Sixth Sense technology, Supreme Care gives you best-in-class efficiency. And with 67 stores nationwide, there's a local expert near you. Find yours at expert.ie. T's and C's apply.
Hi, I'm Jamie Heaslip, and I believe in the power of peer-to-peer business financing with Flender.ie. Investing in Irish business is important to me, so much so that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. Just go to flender.ie/Jamie and send us your proposals. I'll be choosing 10 companies that I'll be backing personally.
Flender.ie is a revolutionary new type of financing. Unlike some other lenders, you could have a decision and the funds in your account in just 24 hours. For more information, go to flender.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
I played music all my life. I worked hard and loved my family. I never thought I could get lung cancer, and I started out as just a cough. I may not be who you think of when you think of lung cancer, but I am lung cancer. If you suffer from a persistent chesty cough, breathlessness, unexplained weight loss or fatigue, please see your GP. This is a message from the Marie Keating Foundation, kindly supported by MSD and Roche. For more information, visit mariekeating.ie.
Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing. Get great 191 offers at the Renault Runway event from the 8th to the 10th of November. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Would milady care to dance?
Certainly, sir.
A story to be told, a drama to unfold, and jewellery to behold. Experience a moment captured in time at Rhinestone St Andrew Street. Victorian brooches, Edwardian lockets, Venetian glass beads, rhinestone jewellery from the golden age of Hollywood, modern gemstones and pearls. Capture the elegance and romance of a bygone era and bring it back to life with a one-off piece of jewellery from Rhinestones, 18 St Andrew Street, Dublin 2.
Make the festive season epic. This Christmas, only Air Prepay gives you great 4G smartphones from just $59.99 with unlimited access to YouTube and social networks like Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, an extra 20 gigs of data, plus unlimited calls to any network for just a €20 top-up. To enjoy more epic connections, go in store or visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Available on Air Simplicity. For full terms, details and fair usage, see air.ie.
Do you know, when doing the weekly shop, I make a great effort to purchase food produced here in Ireland, like these Kiltafeely Ballybridge water sausages.
Sounds Irish? Product of Ireland? Made in Ireland? Confused? Just because it seems local doesn't mean that it's actually produced here. With the Love Irish Food logo, it means it's produced in the Republic of Ireland using local ingredients when available.
Kiltafeely Ballybridge water. Now, where's that again? Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Know where it comes from. Choose Love Irish Food.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back to Thursday's football show. So this Saturday sees the first leg of the Copa Libertadores final. For the first time ever, it is a Superclasico in the final. Boca Juniors against River Plate at La Bombonera, and Tim Vickery is on the line from Brazil to look forward to it. Evening, Tim.
Good evening, how you doing?
Would I be exaggerating things to say this is the biggest game in the history of Argentinian club football?
No, Not at all. It is the biggest, and it's almost too big, And it's absolutely huge. And the tickets are exchanging, on the black market, are going for the price of a house, more or less. And whoever loses is never, ever going to hear the end of this. Never. I mean, in 50 years' time, they will still be laughed at and mocked in the streets because they lost the biggest clash in one of the biggest rivalries that there is in world football.
Two great names of world football. It's surprising that it's the first time they've ever met in the Copa Libertadores decider, and also that they've met so few times in the competition at all.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the history of the Libertadores, you couldn't have a final between clubs from the same country. It was kind of filtered through, so you had to meet in the earlier rounds. We had a couple of all Brazil finals just over a decade ago. This is not only the first Boca River, it's the first all Argentine final. And it's just a huge occasion. It's changing everything. And usually the finals are Wednesday night. This time, with security considerations, both because of security of the game and because the original date for the second leg would pretty much coincide with a meeting of the G20, Donald Trump and all, in Buenos Aires. For security reasons, both games have been moved to Saturday afternoon Argentina time, which I think is 8 p.m. Island time, which means that there's going to be an opportunity for more people all around the world, and especially I think in Europe because of the time difference, to follow what goes on. I would say it's one of those games like the old Doctor Who of my childhood. You might want to watch it behind the settee now and again. A mate of mine, a fanatic for Argentine football, has just flown down today. He'll be at both games, and he said to me, "I'm not expecting games. The games aren't going to be very good, but the atmosphere is going to be phenomenal." I think that at the moment, that's a kind of general consensus, that the tension is just going to be so great that it's, and I think especially the first leg, it's going to be tense, it's going to be tight. No one is going to want to make a mistake. So I think we can guarantee drama. We can certainly guarantee atmosphere. Whether we can guarantee quality, I think, is another matter.
That atmosphere, though, it's going to be pretty one-sided. There's not going to be any away fans at either game?
That's right, which is standard practice in Argentine football.
But there was talk that they might have actually changed it for this match initially.
Yeah, but in the end, I think security considerations won out. So, and also the fact that for the home side, it means you can sell more tickets because you don't have to have any separation between the two fans. It means that, and one of the beauties of this game is that they are so different in a way, that both of these clubs grew up in the working class Docklands area of Buenos Aires. Boca Juniors have defiantly stayed put. River Plate have long since moved out to the snooty suburbs. So you get completely different atmospheres. On Boca, the area is called La Boca. It's colourful, shall we say, full of character, which may be a euphemism for not entirely safe all of the time. Right. It's cramped and it's claustrophobic. There's not a lot of space. You walk quickly. You avoid eye contact. And you can see there's no space from the football stadium. It's called La Bombonera, the chocolate box, for a reason. It just goes straight up, not for vertigo sufferers. And it means that those fans are close to the pitch and the atmosphere is extraordinary. River Plate, where we'll have the second leg in 3 weeks' time, is a different proposition, or just over 2 weeks' time, is a different proposition. River Plate, that they moved out to the suburbs, wide, leafy avenues. It's a huge bowl-like stadium. Some of the corridors are so wide in there, you could be in the United Nations building. And so the atmosphere that their fans create is also very different. It's equally insane, but just different, because architecture matters. So on the level of a symbol, if you like, Boca stand for the old traditional working class. You can also almost see the army of Perón. It's Perón's army jumping up and down there, whereas River Plate, they call themselves the millionaires, and that they have a reputation for being a little bit more cerebral with their fans. If you actually look at the sociological surveys, there's almost no difference between Boca fans and River fans. But on the level of the symbol, it's very, very important, the separate identities that these clubs have.
So they won't get to meet inside the stadium, the two sets of supporters, but just how tense will it be around Buenos Aires for these couple of weeks with this game and with this final being on, is it a rivalry that does boil over on a fairly regular basis?
Yeah, it does. I think we've already had a fan death because of this, and it's a national event because these are national teams with national support bases. You know, over half the population supports either Boca or River. So yeah, I think already one death has been reported. And Argentine football has a serious problem with fan violence, and these huge derby games they can generate much more heat than light. So hopefully at the end we'll be talking about football and atmosphere and not a death count.
Yeah, and Tim, if they're not letting away supporters in general into matches in Argentina, where are the issues cropping up? Is it around the stadium the days of the games?
No, it's all over. Can be all over. Can be hundreds of miles away from the stadium. And as I said, these are clubs with national support bases. So you can have River and Boca fans clashing hundreds of miles away from Buenos Aires. It's one of those things where sometimes wearing the wrong shirt at the wrong time can prove to be a very unfortunate decision.
We get to see Argentinian players in the Premier League every week, playing in the best leagues all over Europe. There seems to be a constant flow of talent to the top clubs in Europe from Argentina. Where does that leave the quality of Argentinian football right now?
Well, I think that there's an excellent illustration here, and you just had the big. It's not, to my mind, a derby game, but it is a rivalry game. Barcelona and Real Madrid. We had that a couple of weeks ago, and all 6 goals were scored by South Americans. The youngest of those South Americans, the one who left South America latest, was Arturo Vidal at the age of 20. All the others left as teenagers. Now, obviously, that means a hollowing out. There's no doubt about that. And the quality on this side of the Atlantic suffers as a consequence. In this particular year, both River and Boca have invested heavily. They've got deep squads. It may not be sustainable. And since then, during the course of the year, the Argentine currency has collapsed. And because a lot of the contracts are in dollar, that's a problem. So there could well be a fire sale at the end of the year. I could certainly see some European clubs swooping on some of the younger talent that we got available on both sides. But for the time being, for these 2 weeks, there is quality on both sides. Whether the occasion will be too tense for it to rise to the surface, we'll have to see. There's no away goals rule in operation in the final. Away goals rule is in operation in the previous rounds, not in the final, and that's another thing that could contribute to make the first game a little bit more tense, because there's no real onus on River Plate to go and get the away goal.
Their routes to the final then, River Plate beat the defending champions Gremio in the semi-final. Pretty controversial circumstances?
Very much so, yes. With VAR and with a late VAR penalty, which in the end, even Gremio accepted that it was a penalty. But it does show you how VAR changes the game. It was a shot deflected behind for a corner. Even River weren't appealing for a penalty. But then the VAR referee had spotted it. It was clearly blocked with an outstretched arm. I think one perhaps lesson here for world football is, with VAR in operation, defending very deep now carries extra risks, because other things are going to be spotted.
Accidents can happen.
Gremio were very unhappy with the first River Plate goal on that in that game, which was a header glanced in from a free kick. It seems, looking at it 300 times on video replays, it may have glanced off his arm as well. So they're saying, well, VAR worked against us, but it didn't work for us. I tend to the view that some of the people who've been pushing VAR have oversold it and sold the idea it was going to be a panacea and it was going to eliminate all possible problems. We've already seen that's not going to be the case. So River Plate kind of snuck into the final. That they were eliminated with 10 minutes to go and managed to pull that one round. Boca Juniors got in there more easily on aggregate against Palmeiras of Brazil. But if you look at the records going into this final, exactly the same: 6 wins, 5 draws, 1 defeat, which tells you there ain't no favourites in this one. There wouldn't be anyway, because previous form goes out of the window. The last time these two sides met, it was in a league game at Boca's ground 2 months ago, 23rd of September, and River won that one 2-0. However, I don't think Boca fielded a particularly good team on that occasion. I think it may well have been the last hurrah for Carlos Tevez, who started that game, hasn't been seen since in the Libertadores, hasn't even come off the bench. He may well have a role to play. He's a big occasion play. He may well have a role to play in these two matches, but it's not going to be as a starter, I think. If he does get a run, it's going to be off the bench, and Boca have tweaked their side since then. So they will argue that 2-0 defeat on home ground less than 2 months ago was an accident, which isn't going to be repeated on Saturday.
How has Tevez taken his relegation to a bench role?
Well, it seems fair enough. I mean, he came back from a very, very unsuccessful spell in China, came back at the start of this year, and he really hasn't done it this year. He's lost his pace. And in the group stage of the Libertadores, Boca struggled a little bit, and they looked like a side where his presence was a hindrance. It was looked to those one of those sides, one of those sides kind of built around a star when the star isn't performing anymore. So he seems to have taken it well enough. And as I say, that they've got quite a deep squad. And the fellow who's really fired into form up front is the centre forward Benedetto, who may well have been Argentina's World Cup centre forward, but he suffered a long-term injury towards the end of last year. Came back kind of August, really looked off the pace, wasn't playing well. And then in the semi-final, coming off the bench in both games, he just found his mojo again, and he was banging in fantastic goals. So that's a selection decision. Do you start with him on Saturday, or do you leave him on the bench and bring him on the second half? But if he is on the bench, as he has been, he clearly gets on before Tevez does.
And quality-wise then from River Plate, who are we looking out for?
Well, I'm not sure he's going to get a start, but the main creative force is the fellow who had such a great World Cup for Colombia, Juan Fernando Quintero, the left-footed playmaker. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he doesn't start, if they leave him on the bench. But when he comes on, he's not the world's greatest athlete, and he doesn't tend to last 90 minutes. But when he comes on, suddenly football is generated. From the start, I think there's another young Colombian, Santos Borré, the striker, who moves very well behind the defensive line. He's opening up space for those coming from behind. And one of those coming from behind is a young teenage midfielder who's not going to be around very long. And some of the big giants from Europe are already interested in him. Ezequiel Palacios, who's strong, dynamic midfielder, and he'll be one of those players who'll be trying to take advantage of the space that Santos Borré opens up.
The winners of this head in then to the World Club
Yes.
Championship. Is that in any ways relevant right now? Is it all just bragging rights?
No, well, that's because that's taken so seriously in South America, really seriously. Obviously, at the moment, it's overshadowed by who's going to win the Libertadores. But then you got your sights gunning on Real Madrid, and why not? If you can conquer Buenos Aires, today it's Buenos Aires, tomorrow the world. So that's that plays big. Although no one is thinking about that for the moment. And I think the worrying thing is the extent to which no one wants to lose. I was reading this from an old mate of mine, Sergio Levinsky. He's a veteran Argentine journalist. He's a Boca fan. And he's already tweeting, he's saying, look, because the second leg's at River Stadium. So he's saying, look, we Boca, if we win, we get to do the lap of honour. Boca get to do the lap of honour in River's Stadium. Now, that's the ultimate humiliation. And it's something that River will probably never have the chance to do, because from next year, we go to a one-off final on a neutral ground. So in order for River to have the chance to do a lap of honour at Boca Stadium, three things have to happen. Buenos Aires has to be chosen as the venue for the final. Boca's stadium then has to be chosen as the venue in Buenos Aires, and Boca and River have to qualify for the final again. So for the moment, the ball is on the penalty spot for Boca to do a lap of honour in front of none of their own fans at River Stadium. And if that happens, light the touch paper and retire to a safe distance.
I was just going to say, you can imagine what the atmosphere will be like as they stroll around the pitch. Maybe they'd be better off keeping it quite short, that lap of honour, I would imagine. What's your prediction then, Tim?
I'll tell you afterwards. I really haven't got one. Always make your predictions after the event anyway, because they tend to be more accurate that way. But I really, really don't have one. Because the big untold factor here is the effect that pressure is going to have on these players. This pressure is going to be absolutely insane. How is that going to affect the players? Who is going to be affected most? Who is going to suffer? Who is going to rise to the occasion? Don't know. Tell you afterwards.
All right, Tim Vickery, great stuff. We're looking forward to it. Saturday evening, 8 o'clock, perfect time in this part of the world for Boca Juniors against River Plate. Celtic in the Europa League this evening have just gone 2-1 up against Leipzig. Leipzig equalised through Jean-Kevin Augustin, but within a minute, Edouard put Celtic back in front of a huge win in injury time there. If they can hold out Celtic, we'll bring you through the full times in just a couple of moments.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Okay, the secret is out. Kildare Village is having a private sale. Saturday, November 10th to Sunday the 18th. That means saving an extra 20% on participating brands, but to get those savings,